So it can be really overwhelming to figure out which part of Austin, Texas is best for you because we have so many great parts of town and we have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to like greater Austin suburbs. Now, one of the most common questions that we get from people just like you who reach out to us is, Barrett, what are the best kind of parts of town? What are the best areas of Austin, Texas for families? So today we're gonna dive into the top 10 family-friendly neighborhoods of Austin, Texas. And we're gonna tell you, number one, where is this area or neighborhood? Number two, what are the schools like there? Number three, what makes it family-friendly? And number four, what are the home prices that you can expect if you want to move into this area? Let's get into it. All right. Neighborhood number one is none other than Westlake Hills. We're starting big here, all right? And so Westlake Hills is gonna be just west of downtown Austin. And the school district that your kids are gonna be zoned to if you live there is called Eanes ISD. That's E-A-N-E-S ISD. Aaron, do you know why it's called Eanes ISD and not Westlake ISD?
Tell me.
No freaking idea. Google it. I don't know. And look, like Westlake ISD, or it's like a Eanes ISD, like regularly every year gets voted as like one of the top 3 school districts in all of the state of Texas. And from time to time, it actually gets voted or ranked or rated the #1 school district in all of Texas. For the most part, that has to do with the academics as well as the athletics, but also like the percentage of kids that end up going to a 4-year university straight out of high school. Now, one thing that you need to know about Westlake Hills is that a lot of people in the Austin area kind of think of it as like yuppie, kind of uppity, and there's definitely some reason for that, but also, like over the years, maybe it's just me getting older, like I have noticed that there are a lot more down-to-earth people in Westlake, which is one of the most famous neighborhoods in all the Austin area. A lot cooler people than I thought. All right. Now, one of the things that makes Westlake like really family friendly is you've got great big luxury homes on massive lots, great views. It's super beautiful out there. And again, the schools are incredible. So that's kind of by default pretty family friendly. You feel like you're separated from the world out there, but you're also just a hop, skip, and a jump from like Zilker Park, Barton Springs, downtown Austin, and really everything that makes Austin, Austin. You still have extremely close access to it. Now, in terms of home pricing, on average, you're gonna pay about $1.5 million for a home in Westlake. Now, I've seen homes, I have shown homes, my team has helped people with homes in Westlake that are well into the 5-10 millions. And from time to time, you will find homes that are a little bit cheaper, but on average, you're gonna look at about 1.5 million. Now, here is a quote from someone who lives in Westlake. They said, quote, "Living in Westlake Hills feels like the best of both worlds. Close to the energy of downtown Austin, but tucked away in a peaceful hill country setting. The schools here are amazing, and there's a strong sense of community among families." So there you have it, straight from the horse's mouth. All right, now neighborhood number 2 on our list is Barton Creek. Okay, so Barton Creek is another one of those neighborhoods that's kind of famous in the Austin area. It's kind of like Westlake, but a little bit more off the beaten path. Barton Creek is really famous for its country club. So for golfing, I think like every year there's a PGA tournament that actually happens at Barton Creek Country Club. So it's very nice, very fancy, very safe, like very sought after. And it's kind of seen as like an aspirational neighborhood in Austin. And very similar to Westlake, you're gonna get big lots with big luxury houses out there. And actually, a lot of people don't know this, but the school district that you're gonna be zoned to out in Barton Creek is Austin ISD. So if you live out there, your kids are gonna go to school with a bunch of city kids, like my kids. I live in Central Austin, and so my kids go to Austin ISD. And I think Austin ISD gets a bad rap sometimes because it's not super highly rated on websites like greatschools.org, niche.com, but I think it all depends on where you live. Or not where you live, but it depends on what exact schools your kids are zoned to. Like, we have personally had great experiences with Austin ISD. Now, like I mentioned before, a lot of the reason that it's family friendly is you got big lots with big homes, but it's very spacious, and it's almost like a hyper luxury suburb of Austin. But just like Westlake, you're very close. Like, you have very close proximity to everything that Austin has to offer, but you're like very close to nature. So the Barton Creek Greenbelt is like a huge attraction that a lot of people come to from all over Austin, from all over Central Texas, from all over Texas, really. It's a great place. You can swim, hike, mountain bike. And so not everyone, but a lot of people who live out in Barton Creek love being so close to nature. Now, in terms of home prices, it's a little bit cheaper than Westlake. So the average home out in Barton Creek is about $1.25 million. Now, again, I sound like a broken record here. Just like Westlake, you could easily buy a $10 million house out in Barton Creek. And on the other side of that token, you could easily find a home that is $1 million in Barton Creek. But for the most part, you're going to be looking about $1.25 million. Now, someone who actually lives out in Barton Creek says, quote, "We love the privacy and outdoor opportunities Barton Creek offers. You're surrounded by nature, yet just a short drive from downtown. It's a great place for kids who enjoy hiking and exploring." There you go. Neighborhood number 3 is another one of those big, famous kind of marquee neighborhoods, like luxury neighborhoods in Austin, and that would be Tarrytown, okay? So I know a lot of people who are just like, oh, someday, like I'd love to live in Tarrytown. But just so you know, Tarrytown is like immediately west of downtown Austin. So Westlake is kind of west of downtown, off in the hills. Tarrytown is just like right there. Like I would even consider Tarrytown to be more central Austin, okay? Now, it's really pretty. It's very, very hilly. It really reminds me of like certain parts of Seattle that I've been to before, just like with all the trees and kind of the rolling terrain. Now, just like Barton Creek, if you live out in Tarrytown, your kids are going to be zoned to Austin ISD. Now, here's the thing about Tarrytown. I would say, I don't know if it's most, I'm kind of pulling these numbers out of my butt here, but like, I would say in my experience, half the people who live in Tarrytown send their kids to private school, but then the other half do send their kids to public school. But the reason they do that is that the elementary school is elite. So it's called Cassis Elementary, and it's always rated super high. And then after Cassis, your kids would go to O. Henry Middle School, which is where my boys go. And then high school, you would go to Austin High School, which is where actually one of my sons is about to go. Now, one of the reasons that I think, or some of the reasons that I think Tarrytown is family friendly is, again, you have an amazing elementary school, but I think it's like a certain type of family friendly. Okay, whereas like Barton Creek, Westlake, you're kind of secluded out. You're almost living in like a little bubble. Whereas Tarrytown, you kind of do live in a Tarrytown bubble, if I'm honest. And a lot of people love that, but some people hate that. It almost feels like a suburb, but you're going to be raising city kids, all right? Like you are right there close to downtown. You are like in the mix. You are right there in the middle of everything that Austin has to offer. So 3 very different neighborhoods here. And as I'm going through this list, like if you want to know any more about any of these areas, or you're like, I'm not exactly quite sure where I want to be, just get in touch with us. My team would love to have a Zoom meeting with you, and they would love to help you pick out, and they would love to point you in the right direction in terms of like the suburb, the neighborhood, the area that's absolutely perfect for you. So back to Tarrytown. Typical home prices, actually I need to fact check this. It's probably right, but when I did my research here, I found that the average home price in Tarrytown is right about $1.1 million. And you know what? I do think that's right. I think price per square foot, the homes in Tarrytown are vastly more expensive than Westlake, than Barton Creek. It's just that you're gonna pay similar prices for much smaller houses on average. Now, there are mansions, there are huge estates out in Tarrytown, but for the most part, you're gonna see really nice, renovated, well-appointed, kind of smaller, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,900 square feet bungalows, but in an amazing neighborhood. Now, here is what one Tarrytown resident had to say recently, and I quote, "Tarrytown is charming and full of history. The streets are shaded with beautiful old trees, and we can walk to parks or take a quick bike ride downtown. It's ideal for families who want a slower pace but still be in the city." Man, these quotes are the last thing that I added here, and they're really kind of like supporting what I'm saying here. Neighborhood number 4 is Rough Hollow. And fun fact, that's actually the neighborhood where we're out filming today. How do you like Rough Hollow, Aaron?
Super safe, and it feels great out here.
Yeah, okay, I totally agree. So Rough Hollow is about 25 miles west of Austin, in a suburb called Lakeway. Okay, so there's about 2,000 home sites here. There is a lot of new construction out here, but they've already sold about 1,900 of the sites. Like they're done, so there's only 100 home sites left here. So we're like right kind of on the shoreline of Lake Travis. Oh, and your kids out here are going to be zoned to Lake Travis ISD. And Lake Travis ISD, very similar to Eanes, every year it gets rated and ranked as one of the top 3 neighborhoods in all of Central Texas. Great academics, great college entry, and like super elite sports. Now, Rough Hollow is not one of the like big famous neighborhoods that you're gonna see on YouTube or anything a lot, unless you watch this YouTube channel. But we actually just talked to a builder out here, and he was saying that in his opinion, Rough Hollow is like Disney World without the gates, okay? It's crazy. Like the amenities out here are insane. Just in this neighborhood alone, they have 4 pools. One of them is adult only, and one of them is more geared toward toddlers. They have a lazy river. There's a marina where you have a restaurant in there, and they actually have a pool at the marina where they have food service like in the pool. I talked to a client once recently, and he was saying that like, so he lives in Rough Hollow, and he was saying that like when he was walking with his kids down to the marina and to the pool, he was just like, I seriously feel like I'm on vacation every day living out here, which is crazy. So if you don't like getting work done, you would love this neighborhood. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah, or you got to get a lot of work done to live here. So yeah, what makes this area family friendly is the resort style amenities. There's the yacht club, as well as the super elite schools, as well as just kind of their general vibe and safety out here. Now, typical home price out here in Rough Hollow is only about $875,000. And like, what's crazy is like, you can see examples of some houses out here. Like, these are nice, like 4, 5, some 6-bedroom houses, 3,000 square feet, you know, 4 or 5 bedrooms, 3, 4 full bathrooms. Like for an average of $875,000 is like, to me, kind of a steal. And I can tell you right now, I would have loved to grow up in a neighborhood just like this, and so would my kids. Sorry, kids. So what one resident had to say about living in Rough Hollow recently. He said, quote, it's kind of crazy. It's like living in a vacation resort year-round. I didn't even think about that when I said that. We love the lake access and all the community events. The neighbors are friendly and the schools are fantastic. Wow. All right, neighborhood number 5 is Circle C Ranch. So Circle C, we just call it Circle C here. So Circle C is in kind of southwest Austin off of Mopac, kind of on your way to Driftwood. And if you live in Circle C, your kids are going to be zoned to Austin ISD. We've already talked at length about Austin ISD. They would end up going to Bowie High School, which I've heard good things about. And one of the reasons, well, a couple of the reasons that I think Circle C is pretty darn family friendly is they were kind of like the first true master plan community in the city of Austin. So it's newer homes. They haven't been building there for a little while now, but kind of like late 90s, early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s even homes. They've got a lot of parks, a lot of pools, an extensive trail system all over the neighborhood. They have like a robust system of like bike lanes. And so I would say Circle C is perfect for families who want to be like pretty close to the city of Austin, but they don't want to be right in the mix of all the hustle and bustle, but they really appreciate being outdoors and being, again, touching distance to everything Austin has to offer. So here's what one resident actually had to say about living in Circle C. They said, Circle C is perfect for raising a family. There are always kids playing outside, and the neighborhood amenities are excellent. Plus, the schools here really care about the students. So it's pretty cool. Oh, and I forgot to talk about the prices. Typical average price point in Circle C right now is right around $725,000. And if you haven't noticed already, as we go through these neighborhoods, I'm going from the most expensive area on average to the least. So if you didn't catch it, now you know. Okay, neighborhood number 6 on our list of family-friendly Austin, Texas neighborhoods is Steiner Ranch. So I'm gonna tell you right now, people who live in Steiner Ranch love being people who live in Steiner Ranch. And so Steiner Ranch is really kind of like in northwest Austin, like also right around Lake Travis. So it's a bit north of where we are, but still around Lake Travis. If you're gonna be living in Steiner Ranch, your kids are actually gonna be zoned to Leander ISD. I always say Leander ISD is always ranked one of the top 5 school districts in all of Central Texas. And that's crazy to me because it really packs a punch. And I'm just gonna tell you the prices right now. So just in Steiner Ranch, which is it's by far not the cheapest neighborhood in Leander ISD, but the typical price point is $580,000, okay? So you could go to Eanes ISD, Lake Travis ISD, where you're spending millions of dollars, Or you could spend an average of $580,000 and live in one of the top ranked school districts in all of the state. So I would say that is probably the main thing that makes it a family-friendly area. But I would even say Steiner Ranch reminds me a lot of Rough Hollow, actually. It's just a little bit further north and you're in a different school district and you're paying a bit less. So like there have been clients that our team has worked with where like we've taken them to Rough Hollow and Steiner Ranch and then back to Rough Hollow and Steiner Ranch. And like literally I forget which neighborhood I'm in because the vibes and the feels are just very, very similar to one another. And here's what someone who actually lives in Steiner Ranch had to say about Steiner Ranch. And I quote, "We moved here for the schools and stayed for the community." Oh, that's adorable. Oh, Aaron, isn't that so cute?
That's like a love story.
That is cute. Everyone looks out for one another, and the access to the lake and trails makes weekends really fun.
Dang.
I just love that. I just love that. Neighborhood number 7, we got to keep rolling, is Belterra. Okay. And we love Belterra. If you're driving out west on 290 out of Austin, like if you look off to the left and you see a neighborhood and you're like, dang, like what the heck is up with these beautiful hills and like this neighborhood built on all these hills? Well, it's southwest of Austin toward Dripping Springs. And if you're living in Belterra, your kids are going to go to Dripping Springs ISD. And surprise, surprise, Dripping Springs ISD is also ranked one of the top 5 school districts in all Central Texas. Honestly, almost all of these school districts are going to be like that, which is one of the things that's like heavily contributes to them being family friendly. And just like a lot of these neighborhoods, what makes Belterra a family friendly neighborhood is the great schools, multiple pools, parks, trails, and just like a very clear sense of like a really tight-knit community feel. And Belterra is actually just slightly cheaper than Steiner Ranch. Typical home prices come in right about $575,000. Now, you can go way higher than that if you want a great big Mac Daddy house in Belterra, but typical home price about $575,000. And someone who actually lives in Belterra recently said, and I quote, "Belterra feels like its own little town. There are tons of activities for families, and the community is super welcoming. The schools are fantastic, and the homes have plenty of space for growing families." All right, number 8 on our list of family-friendly neighborhoods in Austin, Texas is Avery Ranch. Okay, now Avery Ranch is another one of those neighborhoods that reminds me of Steiner Ranch, and it also reminds me of Rough Hollow, which is where we're at right now. But back to Avery Ranch. So Avery Ranch is like northwest Austin, kind of like near Cedar Park, okay? Now, depending on which section of Avery Ranch you're living in, your kids are either gonna go to Round Rock ISD or Leander ISD. And guess what? It doesn't really matter which one they go to. Do you know why, Aaron?
Because they're both awesome.
Because they're both awesome. So both Round Rock and Leander ISD are always rated 2 of the top 5 school districts in the greater Austin and really greater Central Texas area. The reason that Avery Ranch is so family friendly is because of the top rated schools. There's a lot of really great golf courses in Avery Ranch actually, as well as just like tons of other stuff to do outside in Cedar Park. I mean, it's in the name, Cedar Park. And so if you're living close to Cedar Park, you're gonna have access to all sorts of mountain biking, hiking, walking, all sorts of stuff like that. So typical home price at Avery Ranch is going to be right about $600,000. So very close to Steiner Ranch and Belterra, but just slightly higher. And here's what someone who actually lives in Avery Ranch had to say about living there. And I quote, "It's a great place for families, and there are so many community events, and the parks and pools are always bustling with kids. We also love how safe it feels here." So look, you might hear that like everything is always bustling with kids, and you might absolutely love that. Or you might hear that and be like, Avery Ranch repulses me. So there are a lot of neighborhoods to keep track here. These are just 10 of my favorites that I just thought of off the top of my head based on my team's experience. But if you're just like, man, I can't make sense of all this, like I need help navigating which of these areas is the best for me and or my family, like you have to get in touch with us and we would love to help you navigate that decision. All right, we're getting close, you guys. So neighborhood number 9 on our list is Falcon Point, and that is in Pflugerville. So we haven't done a Pflugerville neighborhood yet. So Pflugerville is like just northeast of Austin, northeast. speaking Norwegian over here, northeast. And it's like the first suburb that you're gonna hit north of Austin as you head north out of Austin on Interstate 35, otherwise known as I-35. And you know, Pflugerville doesn't get a whole lot of love because the schools can be a little bit hit or miss. So there are schools in Pflugerville that are not rated very high at all, but Pflugerville will surprise a brother. But it'll surprise you. Like there are schools in Pflugerville that are rated really, really high and can kind of go up against any school in the greater Austin area. But the reason I put it on here is like you can get a great school in Pflugerville at a really great price, which we'll talk about here in just a second. And I just think that makes it a pretty compelling option. So one reason I think Falcon Point is so family friendly is because, again, you can get good schools. And y'all, like, Pflugerville is so, what do the kids say, Aaron? Slept on? But anyway, Pflugerville is like so underrated, and there's so much cool stuff to do in Pflugerville. Like every time Aaron and I go film there, we're just like shocked. We always end up looking at each other and we're like, Pflugerville's freaking awesome.
We also always end up at the same coffee shop.
What's it called? Like Pecan Street Coffee Shop. Shout out Pecan Street. Love you. But again, my favorite part about Falcon Point is all of that stuff at great prices. So average kind of median typical home price in Falcon Point is right about $425,000. So for 425 grand, you can get a pretty darn good school, and you can have access to all of these amenities like parks, pools, trails, just like a lot of these other exponentially more expensive areas. And here's a quote from someone who actually lives in Falcon Point. Quote, "We were drawn to Falcon Point for the affordability." Interesting. "But we stayed for the sense of community. Neighbors really care about each other, and there are so many activities for kids." Look, from someone who actually lives there. I think that's pretty freaking awesome. Okay, the time has come. Neighborhood number 10 on our list of family-friendly neighborhoods in and around Austin, Texas is none other than the Commons at Rowe Lane. Definitely not a big, famous, marquee neighborhood in the area, but this neighborhood is actually in Northeast Austin near Pflugerville. And so kids who live in Commons at Rowe Lane are going to be zoned to Pflugerville ISD. And think back to what I just said about Falcon Point. Like some of the schools in Pflugerville are not so great, and some of them are pretty great. And so I think Commons at Rowe Lane gives you a pretty great school option, at least in terms of like how the schools are rated on all the websites. So a couple of the reasons that I think Commons at Rowe Lane is family friendly is because it is that perfect mix of what I would call extreme affordability with great schools and amenities like parks, trails, and a pool. And get this, typical home price at Commons at Rowe Lane is $385,000. Like, what? So that's like 4 or 5 times less than Westlake Hills, okay? Which is crazy. Now, here's what someone who lives at Commons actually had to say about living there. "It's peaceful, but still close to everything we need. The neighborhood feels safe, and the schools are great. It's a fantastic spot for first-time home buyers with families." Now, if you want to check out our video on our top 7 suburbs in the Austin area, you can check that out right here. And if you want to see full vlog tours of some of those neighborhoods, you can check that playlist out right here.